Hey guys, and welcome to this CT Intermediate video in our second series of setting up, this time on Inferno. And just like last time, I recommend going back and watching the Mirage series because a huge amount of kind of the general theory about CS is very transferable from map to map. So the idea behind these setting up videos is to help you guys set up your teams, and we'll have kind of different tiers of video. So this one's the intermediate, and of course before we had the beginners, and finally we'll have the advanced level when we're really getting much more complicated. Now at the end of the series here on Inferno, I'll do kind of some Q&A content to patch up any issues or anything like this. So if you have any questions, chuck them in the comments, message me on Twitter, Discord. Anything is okay, and I'll try to cover them as best I can. So we're going to start this one off by talking about kind of some more advanced banana control options. So in the beginner's guide, we talked all about standard banana takes, and we're going to start off here by talking about kind of a very slight sort of variation on standard banana takes. So last time we covered two-man banana takes where you come up like this, smoke deep, molly close, molly deep, make sure you're getting the cubby, or magisk as I like to call it, and then probably double nading tree, but you can save the nades and use them deep or use them onto magisk or something like this. So this is our standard two-man take that we talked over last time, and something you might want to add is having a third player come over and doing fallen flashes, and these flashes just come over the roof like this. Everyone throws them. At the pro level, you'll be able to find the lineup very, very easily if you look at any demos. But the lineup is fairly easy anyway. And what will happen is the third player will come over and he'll flash for these two to help them get banana control. Now, in terms of using these flashes, there's a few ways this extra player could use the flashes. So you could just sort of hold them and wait until these two call for them and they start taking. To have it primed, these two throw their nades. Then as they start swinging to kind of clear banana and take the control, then they'll say, okay, flash over for us, and then they'll go and take it. But something you can also do is throw an early flash. So as these two players are just running up here and they're starting to throw the nades for close for deep with the smoke as well, then you flash over early. It just gets here and you instantly flash pretty much. And the idea behind throwing an early flash like this is it's kind of an anti-rush flash, the way I would describe it. So when the T's are coming up, they're going for some fast hit and they might catch your players in the open. You early flash it will white them, if they're not playing anti-flash of course, and then it will probably push them back and stop them going for a fast take, or they'll just get stuck in the open and burn to death and stuff like this. So sometimes it can be a really good idea to throw an early flash, and then you prime your second, and then the players in banana call for when to get the second flash, and then they can swing on that one and clear out banana. So in terms of your third player coming over to help you with the supportive flashes, it could be a rifler or an AWPer, and the way I would just think about it is it's better probably to have your AWPer on A if you're just going to have the AWPer rotate back anyway. It's easier to hold A with two players early with an AWPer rather than having two riflers. So unless you want to leave the AWPer in banana after you've taken, which can be a really great option, I wouldn't bring your AWPer over. I'd just take a rifler over to do this. But as I said, bringing over an AWPer early as your third player can be really great, because once you've cleared out banana, you have the control, then you can leave the AWPer alone. You can boost them on the half wall, you can leave them playing around the half wall, they can play some off angles behind the car, they can even play the corner back here. It's going to be a really great thing to do, and then when the T's come to clear, they'll probably just contact in and you'll get a free kill. So that can be a really great kind of extra element on a standard banana take, is bringing your AWPer over and then leaving them like this. Okay, and one very quick thing I just wanted to mention is that when you have three players here early, and I'm mainly talking about when you bring your rifler over, don't hold this third player over here for very long. As soon as they get their flashes off, as soon as they're not needed, they need to start rotating. So there needs to be good comms, needs to be describing what's happening in banana. Because if this player hangs around ages while these players are clearing all the way down and they're just sort of hanging around, you're leaving two players A so exposed for so long, for 30, 40 seconds into the round. And by this point, the T's can easily have brackets control. They can easily commit onto A, especially if they see 3 nade sets on B. they'll definitely commit onto A and you can be in a lot of trouble. So just something to keep in mind is when you do have extra players over towards banana, be very trigger happy on rotating them back towards A. And yeah, as soon as there's any indication that banana's clear, get back over to A and kind of even out the numbers on the bomb site. Okay, so that is standard banana takes with 3 players, whether it's an AWP or a rifler that you're bringing over. And I'd also actually recommend that in terms of playing banana on CT Inferno, that all 5 probably of your players should know the nades. They're not very hard, and because there's just so many different scenarios of when you want to bring this player over, you want to leave this player on A, or maybe they've got a spawn and they want to do something mid, but you still want to have 3B and stuff like this. So I think it's really worth having all 5 of your players know the banana nades, know roughly how it's all working, and it's not too complicated. Maybe I'll talk about it for a bit kind of in a server before going into scrims, but it's a really great thing to be doing. Okay, so the second thing we're going to talk about is retake nades on B, and you'll see this all the time. You probably see this too much these days. It probably came really kind of standard about a year ago. So retake nades are super simple. You get up yourself onto top first like this, and then you just bounce the nades off the wall up here. Again, you can find the lineups for these absolutely everywhere. If you do need any lineups and stuff, just probably my Discord is the best place to ask, and certainly somebody's going to have a clip of the lineup. So anyway, you bounce the smoke off here, and then you bounce a molly off here as well, and they land like this. And then you can come in here and clear out this area. So this is in the name, the retake nade. So you lose top banana control, and then you go back in for the take like this with these nades. Now, a very quick thing to say with these nades is that I think at lower levels now, and when these nades first came into the pro level, people just sort of throw like random flashes, bounce them into this corner or high up here, and then swing out and clear here. But what kind of happens when you throw these nades is nobody's playing in front of these nades. Nobody's playing. There are sometimes little gaps you can play around the sides and stuff, but nobody's playing in front of these unless they're getting util down in front. So kind of the flashes out here to catch this area is kind of pointless. And the thing you need to be scared of is players boosting behind the half wall or on the log stacks here. So when you do flash in for the control, if you do actually want to swing and clear it, I would probably use a flash from the coffins or something, a flash that gets these angles, and then just a normal pop flash over here will do it, I'm pretty sure. So that was just a very quick thing I wanted to point out. So retake nades, sometimes, so you'll go in and out doing standard banana take. Some rounds you want to give banana and stuff. I'd pretty much always have some sort of thing in mind, but a retake nade sort of take can be really great. And you just say to your site partners on B, you know, let's give banana this round, we'll retake nades at 1 minute 20 or something. And yeah, and it's just the sort of thing you need to get used to using the retake nades. Sometimes you want to hold them on for longer, play off sound. When they take top banana control, then you go in and retake it. There's no point just dumping the util early. You might as well save it and try and get some good value out of them, try and really disrupt that T side. So the final thing we're going to discuss very quickly is another type of banana take. Now, I've heard loads of different names for this sort of take. I'm going to call it the Renegades take, but there's a million different names for a take like this. And the way it works roughly, and I'll just talk through the nades first, is it's a kind of a triple molly take. So you have one deep mid molly like this. You want to get it kind of as far right as possible when you chuck it down mid. You're going to have a molly all the way back here in this kind of choke point here. And then the third molly, there's a few things you could do. You could even have it as a standard kind of deep molly catching the Magis area, as we spoke about in standard takes, or you could potentially molly tree. But regardless, the whole idea here is you're mollying out basically everywhere the T side could stand, and you're going to go for a really aggressive take. So this isn't like a standard take where you throw your nades, you set up some flashes and you go. This is fast. You're going to get the control, and you're going to, more often than not, try and kill the players as they're stood in these mollies. They're trying to get util down onto the mollies, but you're going to spot them first and shoot them. And these are kind of a really great kind of sort of variation to chuck in from like a really standard take. So in terms of how to do this take, the first thing to talk about is spawns. So when you run a take like this, what's going to happen is your top spawn is going to go in front of the terrorist car molly. And this might sound a bit kind of insane or a bit crazy, but the timings do work out fairly well. So when you have a really good banana spawn and you come up here towards banana, you can get out in front of this terrorist car molly and from my experience, it's roughly like 20-30 damage you're going to take, roughly getting through this molly. So your top spawn player, he'll throw the deep molly, this really deep one here, and then he'll come through just as this is landing. He'll be coming through swinging, okay? So that's your top spawn player. Your second spawn player will come through here, and then this player is either throwing a magic molly like this, or they're going to molly trees. So they're going to come up here, throw these mollies, and then come up and help out their teammate. Now for the second player, because they have a worse spawn, it's probably likely they won't be able to get out in front of this molly. So what will happen normally is this player will come here, especially if he's doing the molly like this, because you need to stop to throw it for a second. When he comes through, he'll probably need to smoke on this molly if he actually wants to come through and help his teammate. So that's just something to bear in mind. The second player needs to know, okay, if I want to commit in front of this molly, I probably need to smoke on it, or I'm going to take 60-70 damage getting through it. And then you can have a third player towards banana like this, and this player is just going to be helping throwing some early flashes. So because this is a fast take, we want some early flashes as this top spawn player swings. Just get some nice fallen flashes like this. Early one as they swing. Maybe you want to I would chain a second one a bit later. So as this top spawn player is coming all the way down like this, you have a second one. Maybe if you're mollying tree, you could do a deeper flash to catch kind of the magic corner. I'm not really sure the timings would work. I think this player would probably be too far forwards for there really to be any point in kind of moving out and throwing this deep one. So maybe just want to chain 2 fallen flashes. But anyway, so you have 3 players over like this, and then one of your A players, preferably the one with a better spawn, will come here and then throw a deep mid molly, and make sure you're banking it really far as you can. Get used to the timings of how long you can come out into the open to throw it, but you don't want it to land out here. You want it to get all the way into here as far as it can, and just try and cut off as much as area as possible. So this is just a really, really great take, and it's a really great variation when you've been throwing so many standard slow takes. You've been using the retake nades, just hit them with something really fast, catch them in the open. As I said, what normally happens is there'll just be a T player stood in the open just here, and you just kill them because they'll have no idea what's going on. They'll be stood here trying to get smoke onto this molly. You'll catch them with a smoke in the hands, or you'll just catch them just before the smoke blooms and just shoot them. And especially at lower levels, you'll just kill everyone doing this. They won't be ready for these mollies to be everywhere. They won't be used to playing against it. Okay, I think that is enough of banana control, and let's move on to talking about some B-site protocols. So I think in the beginner's guide, we kind of talked over a protocol, but we sort of glossed over it because I didn't want to go too in depth and kind of confuse people too much. So on the standard banana takes with 2 or 3 players, it doesn't really matter. We talked about this early setup you're going to do where the top spawn player is going to deep smoke, close molly, and then the second spawn player is going to come here and deep molly. He's going to jiggle from the corner or something. He's going to play it slightly off. This player's anti-flash. Now this is kind of a protocol already. It's kind of an early stance. You're ready for an aggressive T fast take. That's why you're stood in this setup. And from here, you need protocols for what happens next. So if the T side doesn't contest it, doesn't do something fast, then obviously you just go into your standard take or something like this. But if the T side did rush and they go for some sort of aggressive banana play where they're smoking on this close molly, and maybe they're doing like high left flashes as the top spawn player runs through and swings and stuff, you need some sort of protocol. And what you need to do is have already agreed that this second player is going to fall back something like this and then flash above the player sandbags. This player sandbags will commit playing anti-flash. He'll be shouting for flashes. When this flash pops, he'll swing out and hopefully he can get some good trades. It's still kind of a 50-50. It's not always going to work out in terms of the timings, but you want a protocol like this to make it so you've got a good chance. And this is really why you're playing anti-flash early. You don't get wiped by their flashes. Your teammate helps you. You swing out. You stand a good chance of killing these 2 players and getting some decent trades off. So that's a really important protocol to have. So if anything aggressive and fast happens, this player's going to flash, this player's going to hide and wait for the flash, he's going to swing, and you're going to have a good opportunity of going for some kills. Okay, now the next sort of protocol we're going to talk about is really centered around kind of a take itself, and I'm just going to call this kind of anti-eco banana, anti-eco CT banana. And this is very common at the top level to do takes like this. It's not really even a take, it's more of kind of an early stance. So what will happen is normally your top spawn, but it doesn't really matter, will come through here and it'll do the jump throw early molly. So it's running over here, you'll find the lineup again everywhere. People do it all the time. They'll come through like this, they'll molly like this, and then they'll stay near the corner like this. And what will normally happen is they'll get to the corner, they'll jiggle out a bit, and then they'll do, some people call it an Astralis nade or a glaive nade or whatever. You just bounce it off the wall here, above the half wall, off the corner, and it'll just land behind this molly, because all the T side, if they wanted to do something B, they'll all be stacked up behind this close molly ready to go, and you'll just nade them into oblivion. But anyway, you go into this stance early, and then from here you might just give it and play the site, or you might come in for the take if you don't hear anything. But the thing I really want to talk about is the protocol of what happens in this stance if the T side fast takes banana control. They go for something, I don't know, they smoke onto this one, and then they barrel through on flashes and stuff. What needs to be agreed in your protocol is one player falls site and one player falls CT. You do not have time really to communicate who's going where. And what you don't want to happen is both your players to fall onto site. They get tangled up on each other trying to get behind new box or second, and you got no sort of crossfire. It's not good at all. And what you want is them falling CT and site, and then having a good crossfire from new box and CT. They'll still have nades, so even if they CT smoke, this player will be able to get nades off and help his teammate. But what you don't want happening is them both falling the same way, colliding with each other. And again, you need a protocol between your 2B players, especially for a stance like this, but really in any situation where you get fast hit and you do fall, you need to have it already agreed, have a protocol for where each player falls. The way I would do it probably is just the anchor always falls site and the rotator always falls CT if you're going to give it early, and then you have a good crossfire for that one. And the final thing I wanted to discuss very early in terms of this kind of protocols and early stances thing is an Astralis setup, and I'm just going to call it an Astralis anti-rush setup. So the way this setup looks like is you have your AWPer playing the corner like this, you have a rifler in the sandbags like this, and you have a final player in towards coffins like this. So you could open up this. I think they'd probably just close molly at the start and sit in this stance. And the whole idea behind this stance is the strongest way to play it. If you're playing a team that's always doing fast takes and always going aggressively for banana, this is the strongest way to play against it. And again, it's a bit like stuff we've already talked about. If the T side did fast take, then this player would flash over the corner. But this time we're already ready. He's already priming the flash. We're already ready for this. The AWP is taking first contact. So if you're having a lot of trouble with your opponents taking fast banana control, they're smoking on this close molly, they're facing it early, maybe they keep doing stuff like where the terrorist AWPer comes in front of logs and faces, and you're just not used to playing against such an aggressive banana from the other team. This is a really great stance to go into. So again, I would call it an Astralis anti-eco, AWPer on the corner, one player in sandbags, probably top spawn in sandbags, one player coffins, maybe molly close, and then I don't know, off this, you just have to play off sound. If there's not too much going on in banana, you'll have enough nades between the three of you to actually, re-molly deep and close and smoke it and take the control. But this is just a really great way to start the round if you're very scared of fast takes. So the second big topic we're going to be talking about today is all about CT AWPing on Inferno. What are some aggressive options? How should we be playing mid-round? How can an AWPer really get the most out of themselves on the CT side of Inferno? So we're going to start off by talking about kind of how you'd play around on the A bomb site. And obviously the first decision you've got is whether you start towards long or short. So the really important thing just to kind of off the bat is for the AWPer to be very vocal. Which side am I playing and what do I need my other A players to be doing? So just make sure you're really vocal at the start, saying, okay, I'm going to start long side, and then the A rifler, I think we called it the A rotator in the beginner's guide, should normally just be playing the opposite. It's probably the best way to go. So if your AWPer says I'm going to play short, you just play long, and vice versa. If the AWPer is playing on the other side, and for the most part they're just getting ready for some supportive nades. Now in terms of some kind of aggressive options for the AWPer on the A bomb site, so you've got a few things. You can come through short and do something that I would call the Zywoo boost. I think everyone's seen it by now. There's a little pallet here and you just get your teammates to come next to it, and then you can swing out on his head. You can peek mexi, you can peek deep mid, and it's just a very different angle for them to be facing, and you'll catch them off guard quite a lot. But I would say it's probably best if you know they're not AWPing. If they are AWPing, I think people are pretty used to it these days in terms of playing against it. You know, the AWPer will crouch down here and then hold this angle. People in Mexi, if they see a smoke coming down, they'll definitely be looking at this sort of angle or boost over here. So any boost like this, I think people are quite used to, and I probably wouldn't do it if you know the other team has an AWP in hand. So something else you could do is playing some boiler pixel angles. So when a mid smoke is up, an AWPer can play all these really kind of tight angles around up boiler into the balcony area, the balcony room up here, whatever you want to call it, the bedroom, whatever people are calling it these days. And you can just pick a T player if they're not ready for it coming into this angle. I think certainly at high levels, most players are very used to kind of hard jiggling this angle, so you won't get a pick very often against good players, but at lower levels this will work all the time. People will always walk into it and you just get a really easy kill up boiler like this. Now another option could be doing some more kind of aggressive mid stuff. So what you'll see quite a lot is the AWP will deep molly mid, trying to stop them getting into Mexi and stuff like this. They'll hold the wide swing on the Mexi jump at the start, and then after a few seconds, when they know the T side's not going to come out mid, they'll walk down and then they'll hold this angle onto second mid, trying to pick the T's as they come over this sort of angle. It's quite an aggressive thing to do, and I think it can work, especially if they're not flashing or you know how to turn their flash. You know they're very predictable how they use it. It might work again at higher levels. People are very used to this, but at lower levels you'll probably pick them a lot of the time and they're just sort of, they don't expect to be facing anyone. You know, their teammates haven't seen anyone mid, all they've seen is a molly, and they're not ready for it, and you get a pick on to them. So those are some aggressive options. Let's really talk about now kind of the meat of this one, at least in terms of the A site, and that's kind of rotating mid-round. And when it comes to playing on the CT side of Inferno as an AWPer, kind of your go-to spot as an AWPer, kind of mid and late round, should be towards short. Okay, so a lot of rounds you'll start alongside, you'll play the standard shit, you just hold these angles, you'll fall back, hold this, and then you'll come back to here, to Moto maybe. But what's really good to do is to swap with your A rotator, bring him onto the long side towards arch, and you can play short. And this is just a better way to be playing, in my opinion. I think the AWPer has more options from this side, especially when you come into walking into brackets and stuff late and things like that. And something else that's really important, especially when you get to high levels, is to have a rifler towards the kind of the library arch side area. And the reason you want a rifler on this side as opposed to an AWPer is because at the top level, you'll see this B split smoke come down all the time. This smoke is so powerful for what it does on the T side. It's such good smoke to throw on the T side. And for the CTs, in terms of playing against it, if your AWPer is playing behind this smoke, it's so awkward when they have to hold these angles on the CT and they have to walk back in everywhere, staying scoped in so they're not heard, and weird stuff like this. And it's just so much easier for a rifler to be playing behind this. They can play close, they can fall in and out easily, they can get flashed in to re-swing after the smoke. There's so many more options for the rifler. And it's just better to have your AWPer on this side if you know they're throwing the smoke all the time. And at high levels, you can basically guarantee the smoke is going to get thrown. I'm not sure, half of buy rounds or something really is that often this sort of smoke gets thrown. Now, when it comes to walking back into short and walking into these angles onto boiler and maybe even back all the way into mid, late round and stuff, we will talk much more about this sort of thing in the CT Advanced video, because this gets really into retaking banana and bracket control mid-round. And this is much more, at least doing this it's a good idea to do it sometimes, you know, it's a good kind of trick to have, but really understanding when it's a good idea to be walking back in and risking it and stuff is something that that touches on much more advanced things in terms of reading the rotates and, you know, what are the T's doing, when is it safe, when is somebody not going to be posted on me. We'll probably get into this much more in the CT Advanced video. So that's enough of A. Let's talk about B quickly. B's probably more interesting because you've got all the stuff on banana. Now, something that's kind of you'll see all the time is when the AWPer is a good B spawn, they'll do stuff like another player will come with them. So you'll have 2 or 3 players, probably 2. One player will come here, he'll throw the pre-smoke, and then he'll do a fallen flash, and then the AWPer can peek on the flash. You can either peek behind the smoke, there's kind of, it's not really a full one way, but then come behind the smoke and play around it, or then come in front of the smoke and peek the half wall down to these angles on these nades. So that can work quite well. Again, everyone at the top level, higher levels, anyone at a decent level is going to be used to playing against this sort of thing all the time. You're not going to get picks that often. As soon as they see the smoke come in, they know, okay, there could be an AWP facing. I'm not going to just swing out and take the fight. So again, you might probably want to get a bit more inventive when we're talking about kind of higher levels. And something you might want to do, something that's getting more common at the top level, is doing stuff where maybe you molly tree and deep mid maybe, or something like this, and then you boost the AWP onto the half wall. So we're seeing this much more at the top level at the moment. And these sort of rounds are really, really good switch up, because people are so used to swinging behind the car or behind the half wall. They're getting aggressive, getting on top of the half wall, such a really big change of the angle. They're not used to it, and then you can pick them. They're really not ready for it. So what you do is you just come up here. This player will jump on the sandbags on his head, and then onto the half wall, and the AWP can get some nice picks like this. So that's one option. Something else you can do is stuff like playing behind the car molly. So as we talked about loads of times, the T players will normally just car molly, and what you can do as an AWPer is just play behind it like a bit of an off angle like this, and what you're doing is you're holding the tree cross, so they can't get into tree at the moment without you shooting them unless they're flashing. Now at higher levels, this angle is going to get flashed all the time, so it's not going to work that often playing this sort of angle. But if you're playing a team that isn't flashing, or you're playing at lower levels, it's going to work all the time. And what actually makes this spot really strong, aside from being able to pick the tree cross, which people might do kind of unknowingly when the molly's down, is you can see that nobody has crossed tree. And what you can do is you can just tell your teammates, okay, they're not tree, we can get banana easily. When they don't have tree, you can just molly out the magic area like this, smoke deep, flash out, and you've probably got the control. They're probably not close, to be honest, if they've shown no presence or anything. So if the AWPer comes here, they hold early, they're probably giving banana. You can probably get banana for free with just these two nades. And that's just like a really great sort of reaction. It works really, really well. It's when you can get this info that they're not tree crossed, you can save so many nades towards getting banana. Okay. Other options, of course, we've got the simple stuff, playing the half wall behind the corner early. This is really common stuff, and then falling sight and stuff like this. So this you go see all the time. And then something I want to discuss really quickly is using the retake nades in terms of AWPing on B. So if you're playing B early as an AWPer, or you're rotating in mid round or late round, something that can be really strong is using the retake nades to get yourself back onto the angle. So you have a teammate up here throwing the nades. What these nades will do is they'll flush any T players in here, will either swing or they'll get behind. So if they do swing, you'll just be posted anyway. So you can just kill them as they swing out like this. And then once the nades are down for a bit, you can walk back into the angle. And again, we talked about it. The only angle you need to be scared about is a player boosting here on tree, but you can probably just drop peek it or something and just kill them if they are boosted, if you're on your AWP. So if you're AWPing B, or you rotate into B and you want to get back onto this angle, which is so much stronger than playing the site, retake nades is really, really good. And once you've kind of got this control, you can even do stuff like, if you haven't seen anyone, you can probably just play him solo B, especially if he's got any nades on the AWPer, and play 4A once you put him back onto the angle like this. Just a really, really great thing to be doing. And kind of off the back of this, we can jump into kind of the topic of kind of rotating and positioning. And something we should talk about is rotating when you get an early pick as an AWPer. Now, if you want to see kind of good examples of this sort of thing, go and watch like Device on the TT side of Inferno. And what will happen with Device and many of the top AWPers is what you'll see is when they get an early pick onto one of the bomb sites, they go for, I don't know, let's say as an example, we're just doing something aggressive on banana with the pre-smoke that's going to swing half wall. They're going to get an early pick. What you'll see so much at the top level is that off this pick, they'll instantly rotate to the other side. So rotating around as the AWPer and moving around loads is something you should be doing anyway. And in very simple terms, the reason it works really well is that your opponents will be saying, okay, there's an AWP on B, let's walk into A. So what will happen is, because they think the AWP's on the other side of the map, they're going to contact into this area of the map, thinking there's no AWP there, and you'll get a free kill as they walk into your angle. And the more you move around, the more likely you're going to get picks like this when the T side are kind of caught unaware. Okay, so you want to be moving around anyway, but the reason that it's really, really good to like over rotate after you get a pick is because the T side is never, or at least basically never, especially at the top level, maybe at lower levels they might just run in, but at high levels the T side is never going to commit onto a bomb site after they lose an early pick onto there. So if you're peeking banana early, and let's say they're in just like a banana default and you pick this guy or something, he's running into banana, there's no way that the T side is going to run 4 players onto B or going to aggress behind this and, you know, all group up and then go straight into a B exec just after they've lost a pick onto B. What's much more likely is they'll lose a pick and they'll say, okay, we need to do something aggressive. There's aggress onto A. There might only be 2A at the moment. So you over rotate and you leave a solo player B and you play 4A for the next few seconds, because the only thing that can happen is the T side accelerating onto A. So you over rotate onto A for a moment with 4 players and whatever setup you're in. So you're like this for a few seconds. And then after a while, you'll rotate another player back and you'll leave the AWP on A. So you've moved the AWP around, but you've used that timing window to stack the other site, because that's the only site they're going to accelerate onto in this situation. So that's just kind of something I really wanted to talk about, is kind of aggressively rotating, I would kind of call it, or taking kind of a bit of a risky rotate, but it's not nearly as risky as it looks, because there's no way someone's going to call and accelerate onto a site after they've lost a pick like that. It kind of applies on all the maps really, but Inferno is just a really, really great example of this sort of thing. And the same thing applies wherever you get the picks. Really, if you get the pick mid towards A, if you kill them coming out towards brackets, for brackets control, you can be damn sure they're not going to just commit straight up short and go for A, because, you know, there's just not really how I don't really think any IGL would call that sort of thing, accelerate onto a site after losing a pick. Okay, so the final thing I'm going to talk about on this kind of AWPing stuff is kind of thinking about your positioning. Where are you going to play? What's going on? Where am I going to get the most opportunities? So this is kind of a really big topic with AWPers. It's probably potentially the hardest thing with AWPing, is thinking about where am I going to play? Where does it make the most sense? And you need to start asking yourself some really, really important questions on the CT side of Inferno. How are they taking brackets control? How are they taking banana control? Where am I going to get the opportunities? So these are just things you really need to be paying attention to as an AWPer, either yourself or through your teammates. So in terms of yourself, watch how they're taking brackets. What nades are they using? Are they mollying short? If they're not mollying short, you're going to have an absolute field day just killing them as they swing out mid and boiler. If they are mollying short, then maybe you need to be a bit more crafty and walk back in mid round and stuff, or, you know, you could boost behind the long smoke and stuff like this. But you need to already be thinking about what are they going to do and how are you going to play against it, because kind of in the moment it's going to be quite hard to adjust. But if you're kind of coming into the round, you're saying, if they do this, let's do this, let's already be playing too long, and if we're going to play a long base setup like this, and if they do smoke long, we're going to boost. Like, talking about these sort of things is going to give you such a better opportunity for a pick, as opposed to coming into this exact scenario again and, you know, your A rotator plays short side because you haven't discussed what's going to happen, and then they come for the long smoke, there's no one there to boost you. Okay, it's just like stuff like this. When you kind of come into the round, you talk about how you're going to play against certain things, or you get a good read on how they're going to take the map control. You can set up early and be ready to kind of apply your counter or whatever. And the same thing applies with talking to your teammates. So something that happens all the time on Inferno on the CT side is that the T side, right, how do I really describe this? Basically on the B side, there's kind of there's like a cat and mouse game between the CT and the T side to pull each other's nades, and particularly the T side is going to do loads of stuff to try and pull the B nades. They might start smoking front sight, or they might start, you know, doing fake execs and stuff to pull the nades. And what happened all the time is that the T's will play really contacts heavy and try and walk in and just, you know, peek the guy jiggling coffins and stuff to try and pull nades. So as the CT side, you need to start reading how they're taking banana. Are they contacting in to pull on nades and stuff like this? And once you get reads that they're playing a bit looser towards banana and stuff, then you need to be telling your AWPer, okay, come over, they're contacting in, we're going to get a pick easily if you just come here and play. And equally as the AWPer, you know, you're speaking to your B players, how are they taking banana? You know, can we do an aggressive take with a smoke like this and then boosting onto the half wall, or are they always fast taking banana, and is this a really big risk and stuff like this? So kind of having these sort of conversations with your teammates, thinking yourself about how's the other team playing, Are they saving their nades for the execs? Are they using them early in the map control and stuff like this? These are really, really big questions. And as an AWPer, you need to be thinking about all of these sort of things. And this is how you're going to get really good positioning, is asking all of these sort of questions and all of these sorts of things. Now, the final topic we're going to discuss very quickly, considering this video has already gone on forever when I plan to have it about 10 minutes long, standard content really, is contesting brackets with 3 or 4 players. So why is contesting brackets control very, very difficult, especially at the top level? Well, a few reasons. The first one is the short molly, which I've discussed a bit before. Very, very powerful molly. And this molly essentially eliminates pretty much at least most options in terms of like stacking the short side of the map and stuff. When you want to be contesting, they can't play here. You can't really play, porch setups and stuff because you can't fool, and that's why this molly is so powerful. So it really limits your options when this short molly goes down. And also just kind of in general, it's very easy to flash, especially when the short molly's down, all of the angles, or at least most of the angles, unless they're playing anti-flash. And if you're coming out mid as T's with numbers as you should, it's quite easy to trade. You've got another player boiler and swing out as well. And as long as the T side's taking it with numbers, they're going to have a fairly easy time. If there's a player close under porch, there's a player boosted, even if there's multiple players, you're probably going to trade into a fairly decent scenario. So when it comes from the CT side's perspective in terms of contesting brackets, kind of the first question you have to ask, are they mollying short? And if they're mollying short, most of your options are going to go out of the window. And we'll just assume they are mollying short. So there are setups if they're not, but we're just going to gloss over them because when you're playing at a higher level, they're probably going to be mollying short all the time. So if they are mollying short, you need to get much more inventive with how you're playing. So you might do, it's quite hard to show it on here, but let's say you're playing top. So this is top porch, this is bottom porch, and you have maybe the bottom one jiggling and the top one full anti-flash, and then maybe you have another player full anti here and then the AWPer on the corner. So this is what I'm talking about. You have to be very, very inventive with how you're going to play it. You need lots of players anti-flash. You need lots of players over, probably 4. You maybe could get away with it with 3, but you probably need 4 if they're short mollying. And you're basically just going to take as many fights as you can as they come through. They'll smoke this, probably molly this. And you just want to kind of all be turning at the right time. But even then, if there's a second flash coming over, you could be in a lot of trouble. So if you do want to contest brackets, this is the sort of thing you probably want to be doing, or you want to be kind of tying it into aggressive app setups. You probably want 4 players. These are some sort of options you could be going for and stuff like this. So something very quickly I'm just going to discuss is contesting brackets very early. So this is in the first 20 seconds of the round-ish. And I think I've only really seen Astralis doing this. Some other teams will do similar stuff, but when it comes to playing against fast T takes, in terms of fast long wraps, fast short hits, fast brackets control, if you do actually want to contest it and try and kill them, you need to be playing in front of, the short molly. They might, if they're doing a fast brackets, they'll smoke this, but if it's a fast long wrap, they'll smoke this and this. So something I've seen from Astralis is sometimes they'll play like double porch like this. They'll play one player anti here and they'll play one player on the corner here for the first 20 seconds. And this really is the only way to contest these fast takes in terms of contesting it in brackets. I think most teams would probably just give the control and then, drop some nades long and then maybe retake brackets late. But if you do actually want to contest these takes, hard fight them, this is how you got to do it. You've got to play 4 here early. You're going to play like this for the first 20, 30 seconds, and then you're going to rotate out of it when you know they're not coming for fast A control. This is something I read it very quickly, just wanted to bring up, is if you're having real trouble playing against these fast A takes, which are becoming more and more common, this might be a setup you want to add. And what I've seen quite a lot as well at the top level is playing like this, one hiding porch, one jiggling, just at the start in case they did go for some fast mid control, because this really is the only way you can really play against it, is having one player taking contact, one player full anti, and then even then it's still kind of 50-50 fights in these sort of situations. So we touch on that very quickly. Okay, then I think that is the end of this extremely long video, much longer than was intended. And I think next time will be the Terrorist Inferno intermediate level. Hopefully that one isn't 40 minutes long, whatever this one is at the moment. So stay tuned for that one again. Questions below on any of this sort of stuff. I've probably covered so many topics in this one that there might be quite a few questions, but we'll try and get to those at the end. Apologies for those that got a bit confused with some parts, because probably I went a bit beyond the intermediate level with some of the ramblings, but whatever. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, subscribe, Twitter, Discord, like the video. What else? It's all linked below if you need to find it, all of that sort of stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching this one, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.